Captain Jake Morrison opened his eyes as the cold sleep chamber released its hold on him. The blue lights above his head blinked slowly while warm air filled his lungs for the first time in 18 months. Around him, other crew members were waking up from their long sleep. The journey from Earth to the Kepler 442 system had finally ended. Jake sat up and looked around the medical bay. 200 humans had made this trip together, all hoping to start a new life on a distant planet. Dr. Susan Blake moved between the sleeping pods, checking on each person as they woke up. Her gentle voice helped calm those who felt confused after such a long sleep. The ship shook slightly as Jake stood up. He walked toward the bridge, passing crew members who were still trying to remember where they were. The US Liberty was humanity's greatest achievement, a massive ship that could travel between stars. It carried everything they needed to build a new colony far from Earth. On the bridge, Navigator Ben Taylor was already at his station. Looking at star maps and checking their position, the young man had spent years learning how to guide ships through space, and his skills had brought them safely to their destination. Next to him, Communications Officer Lisa Grant sat at her desk, listening for any signals from the empty space around them. Jake took his place in the captain's chair and looked out at the stars. They had traveled further from home than any human before them. The plan was simple: find the planet they had chosen, land safely, and start building humanity's first colony in another star system. Everything had gone perfectly so far. Commander Kate Williams walked onto the bridge, her uniform neat and her expression serious. She had been Jake's second in command for 5 years, and he trusted her judgment more than anyone else. Kate looked at the main screen, which showed the star system they had just entered. All crew members are awake and healthy, she reported. Dr. Blake says everyone came through the cold sleep without problems. We're ready to begin our approach to the colony planet. Jake nodded and was about to give the order to start their final approach when Lisa suddenly sat up straight at her station. She pressed her headphones closer to her ears and frowned. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls, adjusting settings and trying to clear up whatever signals she was receiving. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice uncertain, "I'm picking up something strange. It's not natural background noise from space. This sounds like it might be artificial." The bridge fell silent. They had expected to find an empty star system with no signs of life. Earth's telescopes had studied this area for decades and found nothing that suggested intelligent beings lived here. Yet Lisa's equipment was detecting something that didn't belong. "Can you clean up the signal?" Jake asked, moving closer to Lisa's station. Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes, filtering out the static and background noise of space. Slowly, a clearer signal began to emerge. What they heard next changed everything they thought they knew about their new home. The signal was definitely artificial, but it wasn't human. Strange sounds came through the speakers, unlike any language spoken on Earth. The rhythm and tone suggested intelligence, but the actual sounds were completely alien. Lisa recorded the transmission and ran it through the ship's computer systems. "It's a repeating message," she announced. "The computer thinks it might be some kind of distress call, but I can't be sure without more analysis." Dr. Alex Chen arrived on the bridge just as the alien transmission played again. The ship's scientist and expert on alien life had spent years studying the possibility of finding other intelligent species. His hands shook slightly as he listened to proof that humans were not alone in the universe. "This is incredible," Alex whispered. "We're actually hearing from another intelligent species. The patterns in the signal suggest they're trying to communicate something urgent." Engineer Pete Rodriguez joined them, his tools still in his hands from checking the ship's systems after their arrival. Pete had built many of the Liberty's most important systems and understood how the ship worked better than anyone else. He listened to the alien signal with growing concern. "If this is a distress call, they might need help," Pete said. "But we don't know anything about them or their technology. We came here to start a colony, not to get involved in alien problems." Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. In all their planning for this mission, no one had considered what to do if they found other intelligent life. The rules were clear. Their job was to establish a human colony and ensure the survival of their species. Getting involved with aliens could put everyone at risk. But as he listened to the desperate tone of the alien transmission, Jake couldn't ignore the possibility that somewhere in this star system, intelligent beings were in terrible danger and calling for help from anyone who might hear them. The alien transmission continued to repeat every few minutes as the crew of the Liberty gathered in the main meeting room. Jake had called together his senior officers to discuss what they should do about the mysterious signal. The room felt tense as everyone tried to process the fact that they had found intelligent alien life. Dr. Alex Chen stood at the front of the room with his analysis of the signal. He had spent hours working with the ship's computers to understand what the aliens were trying to say. His findings were both amazing and troubling. "The signal is definitely a distress call," Alex explained to the assembled crew. "I've identified mathematical patterns that suggest the aliens are describing some kind of emergency. They're using basic physics concepts that any intelligent species would understand, like gravity and orbital mechanics." Lisa Grant added her own technical analysis. She had traced the source of the signal to a planet in the inner part of the star system, much closer to the local sun than their intended colony world. The transmission was being broadcast on multiple frequencies, suggesting the aliens were trying to reach anyone who might be listening. "They're not just calling for help from their own people," Lisa said. "This message is designed to be understood by any species with radio technology. They want anyone who hears this to know they're in trouble." Navigator Ben Taylor had been studying the star charts since they detected the signal. His calculations showed something that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. The alien planet was exactly where they needed to go if they wanted to help, but it was also far off their planned route to the colony world. "Getting to their planet would use a lot of our fuel," Ben explained. "We have enough to reach our colony, and still have some left over for emergencies. But if we go to help the aliens first, we might not have enough fuel to get back on course." The room fell quiet as everyone understood what Ben was saying. The Liberty had been designed for one specific mission: to reach their chosen planet and establish a human colony there. Every system on the ship, every calculation they had made, every plan they had developed was focused on that single goal. "Commander." Kate Williams spoke up from her seat near Jake. She had been thinking about their situation since they first heard the alien signal, and her military training made her consider all the risks they would face. "We have to think about our own people first," Kate said firmly. "We have 200 humans on this ship who are depending on us to get them safely to their new home. We don't know anything about these aliens or what kind of danger they're facing. Getting involved could put everyone at risk." Chief Engineer Maria Santos had been quiet during most of the discussion, but now she stood up to share her concerns. She was responsible for keeping the Liberty running, and she understood better than anyone how limited their resources were. "Our systems are working perfectly right now, but we're very far from Earth," Maria said. "If something goes wrong while we're trying to help the aliens, we might not be able to fix it. We don't have backup ships coming to rescue us if we get into trouble." Dr. Susan Blake, the ship's medical officer, worried about the health and safety of the crew. The long journey from Earth had been hard on everyone, and they needed to reach their colony world soon to start building permanent homes and growing their own food. "The crew is healthy now, but we need to land soon," Susan explained. "Our supplies are limited, and people are already tired from the long trip. Delaying our arrival at the colony could cause serious problems." Weapons specialist Tony Davis had been listening to all the arguments, but his training made him think about different kinds of risks. He was responsible for protecting the ship and crew from any dangers they might face in space. "We don't know if these aliens are friendly," Tony pointed out. "This could be some kind of trap to lure other ships into their area. Maybe they're not in real trouble at all. Maybe they're looking for victims." Jake listened to all of his officers express their concerns. Everything they said made sense from a practical point of view. Their mission was to establish a human colony, not to rescue aliens they had never met. The smart thing to do would be to continue on their planned course and ignore the distress call. But as Jake thought about the decision, he couldn't forget the desperate tone of the alien transmission. Somewhere in this star system, intelligent beings were calling for help from anyone who might hear them. They had chosen to broadcast their message in a way that other species could understand, hoping that someone would care enough to respond. "Want to hear what everyone thinks?" Jake announced to the room. "This isn't just my decision to make. We're all in this together, and whatever we choose will affect everyone on this ship." The discussion that followed would determine not just the fate of the Liberty and its crew, but the future relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. For the first time in human history, they had the chance to help another intelligent species. The question was whether they would choose compassion over safety, hope over fear. The debate in the meeting room continued for hours as crew members shared their thoughts about the alien distress call. Some argued that they should stick to their original mission and reach the colony planet safely. Others felt that they had a moral duty to help any intelligent species that was calling for assistance. Jake listened carefully to every opinion. Engineer Pete Rodriguez suggested that they might be able to help the aliens without putting their own mission at serious risk. If they could solve the aliens' problem quickly, they might still have enough fuel to reach their colony world. We won't know what they need until we get closer and try to communicate with them properly, Pete said. Maybe their problem is something we can fix easily with our technology. Dr. Alex Chen had been working on decoding more of the alien message. His latest analysis revealed disturbing information about the nature of their emergency. The aliens seemed to be describing a massive object approaching their planet, something that would cause terrible destruction. I think they're talking about an asteroid or comet that's going to hit their planet, Alex explained. The mathematical patterns in their message suggest they're calculating impact trajectories and trying to warn others about the approaching danger. This new information changed the discussion completely. If the aliens were facing destruction from a space object, they might need immediate help that only another spacefaring species could provide. The moral weight of the decision became much heavier, Navigator. Ben Taylor had been running new calculations based on Alex's interpretation of the alien message. If the aliens were really facing an asteroid impact, time would be extremely important. Every hour they spent debating might mean the difference between life and death for an entire alien civilization. If Dr. Chen is right about the asteroid, we might already be too late to help them, Ben said. But if we leave right now and push our engines to maximum speed, we could reach their planet in about 6 days. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. 6 days was not much time to save an entire planet, especially when they knew nothing about alien technology or what resources the aliens might have to defend themselves. Communications. Officer Lisa Grant had been trying to send messages back to the aliens, but so far she had received no response. The alien transmission continued to repeat the same distress call without acknowledging any attempts at communication from the Liberty. Either they can't hear our transmissions or their equipment isn't designed to receive signals on the frequencies we're using, Lisa explained. We might not be able to talk to them until we get much closer to their planet. Commander Kate Williams stood up and addressed the room with the authority of her military experience. She had been thinking about the strategic implications of their choice, and she wanted everyone to understand what they would be risking. If we choose to help these aliens, we're not just risking our fuel supplies, Kate said. We're changing the entire nature of our mission. We came here to establish a human colony, but instead we might become humanity's first ambassadors to an alien species. Dr. Susan Blake worried about how the crew would handle the stress of such a dramatic change in their mission. The people on the Liberty had prepared for years to become colonists, not diplomats or rescue workers. Such a sudden shift in purpose could cause serious psychological problems. Our people signed up to build a new life on a distant planet, Susan said. They didn't expect to get involved in alien politics or emergency rescue missions. Some of them might not be able to handle this kind of pressure. Chief Engineer Maria Santos had been thinking about the technical challenges they would face if they decided to help the aliens. Even if they could communicate properly, combining human and alien technology would be extremely difficult and dangerous. We have no idea how their technology works, Maria pointed out. If we try to help them, we might accidentally make their situation worse. Our equipment might not be compatible with theirs, or we might not understand how to use their systems safely. Weapons specialist Tony Davis remained concerned about security issues. Getting close to an alien planet would put the Liberty in a very vulnerable position, especially if the aliens turned out to be hostile or if other dangers existed in their star system. Once we're in orbit around their planet, we'll be trapped, Tony warned. If something goes wrong, we won't be able to escape quickly. We'll be completely dependent on alien cooperation to get out safely. Jake had been listening to all the arguments, but he knew that the final decision had to be his. As captain of the Liberty, he was responsible for the safety and welfare of everyone on board. Whatever choice he made would affect not just their immediate future, but possibly the course of human history. The weight of that responsibility felt overwhelming. But Jake also understood that some decisions couldn't be made based on fear alone. If humanity was going to become a true spacefaring civilization, they would eventually have to decide what kind of species they wanted to be when they met other intelligent life. I'm going to ask everyone on this ship to vote, Jake announced. This decision is too important for one person to make alone. We'll present the situation to the entire crew and let them choose whether we should help the aliens or continue to our colony world. The crew of the Liberty gathered in the main assembly hall for the most important vote in human history. Jake stood at the front of the room, looking out at the 200 people who had trusted him to lead them to a new home among the stars. Now he was asking them to help him decide whether to risk everything for aliens they had never met. "We came here to start a new colony," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the quiet room. "But we've discovered something we never expected to find. There are other intelligent beings in this star system, and they're calling for help. We have to decide whether to help them or continue with our original mission," Dr. Alex Chen explained. His analysis of the alien distress call to the assembled crew, he used simple language to describe how the aliens were facing destruction from a massive object approaching their planet. The mathematical patterns in their message suggested they had only days left before impact. "These beings are intelligent, like us," Alex said. "They understand physics and mathematics. They have radio technology, and they're smart enough to design their distress calls so other species can understand it. Right now, they're facing the end of their entire civilization." Navigator Ben Taylor presented the technical challenges they would face if they chose to help. The journey to the alien planet would use most of their fuel reserves, leaving them dependent on alien assistance to continue their mission. It was a huge risk with no guarantee of success. "If we go to help them and something goes wrong, we might not be able to reach our colony world," Ben explained honestly. "We could end up stranded in space with no way to complete our mission or return to Earth." The crew listened carefully as each senior officer presented their thoughts about the decision. Some emphasized the risks and the importance of completing their original mission. Others spoke about the incredible opportunity to make contact with alien intelligence and possibly save an entire species from extinction. Chief Engineer Maria Santos described the technical challenges they would face trying to work with alien technology. Human and alien systems might not be compatible, and they had no experience working with beings from another world. Even simple communication could be extremely difficult. "We're engineers and colonists, not diplomats," Maria said. "We don't know anything about alien culture or how to avoid accidentally offending them. We could make their situation worse instead of better." Dr. Susan Blake worried about the psychological impact on the crew if they chose such a dangerous mission. People had prepared for years to become colonists, and suddenly changing to a rescue mission could cause serious stress and anxiety among the crew members. "Some of you might not be able to handle this kind of pressure," Susan said gently. "It's normal to feel scared when faced with such a big change from what we planned. Whatever we decide, we'll need to support each other through the challenges ahead." Communications Officer Lisa Grant had been trying to establish contact with the aliens since they first detected the distress call. So far, her attempts had been unsuccessful, which meant they would be going in blind if they chose to help. "We still can't talk to them directly," Lisa explained. "We don't know if they'll be friendly when we arrive, or if they'll even want our help. We could be flying into a dangerous situation without any way to know what we're getting into." Weapons Specialist Tony Davis presented the security concerns that worried him most. The Liberty was not a military ship, and they had limited weapons for defending themselves if the aliens turned out to be hostile or if other dangers existed around their planet. "Once we're close to their world, we'll be vulnerable," Tony said. "If this is some kind of trap, or if there are other aliens in the area who don't want us there, we might not be able to protect ourselves or escape safely." Commander Kate Williams addressed the crew about the broader implications of their choice. This decision would determine how humanity would be remembered by other intelligent species they might meet in the future. "If we choose to help, we're telling the galaxy that humans are the kind of species who will risk everything to save others," Kate said. "If we choose to continue our mission, we're saying that human survival comes first, no matter what happens to other intelligent beings." The discussion period allowed crew members to ask questions and share their own thoughts. Some people were excited about the possibility of making first contact with aliens and helping save their civilization. Others were frightened about the risks and wanted to stick with their original plan. A young engineer named Carl spoke up from the back of the room. "My family sent me on this mission to help build a better future for humanity. Maybe helping these aliens is part of that future. Maybe this is how we become the kind of species that deserves to live among the stars." An older colonist named Ruth expressed different concerns. "I left everything behind on Earth to come here. My children are counting on me to help build a safe place for them to live. I don't want to risk their future for aliens we know nothing about." The debate continued for hours as crew members wrestled with the moral and practical implications of their choice. Some argued that they had a duty to help any intelligent species in trouble. Others insisted that their first responsibility was to their own people and their original mission. Finally, Jake called for the vote that would determine the fate of both humanity and the unknown alien civilization. As the electronic voting system tallied the results, everyone in the room understood that they were making a choice that would echo through history and define humanity's place in the galaxy. The vote was unanimous. Every single person on the Liberty chose to help the aliens, even knowing it might cost them their own mission and possibly their lives. Jake felt a surge of pride in his species as he announced the results. Humanity had just proven that compassion could triumph over fear when faced with the ultimate test. "We're going to help them," Jake declared to the cheering crew. "Today humanity takes its first step toward becoming the kind of species that deserves to explore the stars." The Liberty immediately changed course toward the alien planet. Chief Engineer Maria Santos pushed the engines to maximum power while Navigator Ben Taylor calculated the fastest possible route. Every hour counted if they were going to arrive in time to help prevent the catastrophic impact. As they traveled through space toward the alien world, Dr. Alex Chen continued working to decode more of the distress signal. His latest analysis revealed shocking new information about the aliens and their situation. The beings calling for help were not just facing one asteroid, but an entire rogue planet that had somehow broken free from its orbit around another star. "This is much worse than we thought," Alex announced to the senior officers. "They're not dealing with a simple asteroid impact. A planet-sized object is heading straight for their world. The gravitational effects alone will tear their planet apart long before any actual collision occurs." The magnitude of the disaster they were trying to prevent was almost beyond imagination. An entire alien civilization, possibly billions of intelligent beings, faced complete extinction within days. Even with human help, it seemed impossible that they could do anything to prevent such a massive catastrophe. Communications officer Lisa Grant finally managed to establish contact with the aliens as the Liberty drew closer to their planet. The breakthrough came when she realized the aliens were using quantum-encrypted transmissions that required a completely different approach from normal radio communication. "I'm getting a response," Lisa announced excitedly. "They know we're coming, and they're trying to send us technical information about their situation. The signal is clearer now, and I think I can establish a real conversation with them." The first direct communication between humans and aliens was both historic and heartbreaking. Through a combination of mathematics, physics, diagrams, and simple pictures, the aliens explained their desperate situation. Their planet was home to over 3 billion intelligent beings, and they had no way to evacuate everyone before the rogue planet arrived. Dr. Alex Chen worked with Lisa to translate the alien messages. The beings called themselves the Zephyrians, and they had been a peaceful civilization for thousands of years. They had developed advanced technology, but nothing powerful enough to stop or deflect a rogue planet from destroying their world. "They've been trying to contact other species for weeks," Alex explained to Jake. "They detected our ship when we arrived in the system and have been hoping we might be able to help them. They're desperate enough to trust complete strangers with the survival of their entire species." The Zephyrians shared technical specifications of their most advanced technology, including something they called gravitational manipulation devices. These machines could create artificial gravity fields and even open temporary doorways through space. But the aliens lacked the computational power needed to use them on a planetary scale. Engineer Pete Rodriguez studied the alien technology specifications. With growing excitement, the Zephyrian gravity devices were far more advanced than anything humans had developed. But their computer systems were surprisingly primitive compared to human quantum processors. "Their technology is incredible, but their computers are holding them back," Pete explained. "They have machines that can bend space and time, but they can't calculate the complex equations needed to use them effectively. That's where we might be able to help." The plan that emerged from the collaboration between human and Zephyrian scientists was audacious and dangerous. Using the Liberty's quantum computers, they could calculate the precise coordinates needed to open stable portals through space. The Zephyrians could then use their gravity machines to create evacuation routes to other planets in nearby star systems. Chief Engineer Maria Santos worked around the clock with Zephyrian technicians to understand how their equipment functioned. The technical challenges were enormous, requiring perfect coordination between two completely different technological systems that had never been designed to work together. "We're basically trying to connect alien machines to human computers, using principles of physics that neither species fully understands," Maria said. "If we make even a small mistake, we could accidentally create black holes or tear holes in space that might destroy both our ships." As the Liberty approached the Zephyrian home world, The crew could see the massive rogue planet growing larger in the distance. The gravitational effects were already causing terrible storms and earthquakes on the alien world. Time was running out faster than anyone had hoped. Dr. Susan Blake coordinated with Zephyrian medical personnel to prepare for the massive rescue operation. Treating alien injuries and dealing with the medical needs of beings from another world presented challenges that no human doctor had ever faced before. Their biology is completely different from ours, but they feel pain and fear just like we do, Susan reported. I'm learning their medical techniques while they learn ours. We're sharing knowledge that could benefit both our species for generations to come. The evacuation began with small test groups to make sure the portal technology would work safely. Human computers calculated the coordinates while Zephyrian machines opened doorways through space to distant planets. The first successful evacuations gave both species hope that the impossible rescue might actually succeed. But as more portals opened and the evacuation effort expanded, the rogue planet's gravitational field began interfering with the delicate calculations needed to maintain stable doorways through space. The rescue operation was running out of time, and millions of Zephyrians were still trapped on their dying world. The final phase of the evacuation faced catastrophic problems as the rogue planet's gravity began tearing apart the Zephyrian homeworld. Massive earthquakes shook the surface while violent storms raged in the atmosphere. The portal technology that had been working perfectly suddenly became unstable and dangerous. Navigator Ben Taylor worked frantically with Zephyrian scientists to recalculate portal coordinates as gravitational fields shifted unpredictably. Every few minutes, another portal would collapse unexpectedly, sometimes trapping evacuation ships in the void between worlds. The careful evacuation plan was falling apart just when they needed it most. The gravitational interference is getting worse, Ben reported to Captain Jake. We've managed to evacuate about 2 billion Zephyrians, but there's still over 1 billion people trapped on the planet. At this rate, we'll lose them all when their world breaks apart. Dr. Alex Chan and the Zephyrian lead scientist, a being called Veltar, worked together to find a solution to the portal instability. Their analysis showed that the only way to maintain stable evacuation routes would be for the Liberty to move much closer to the planet and use its own power systems to boost the portal network. We'd have to take the ship into the upper atmosphere, Alex explained to Jake. The gravitational stress would be enormous, and we might not be able to get back out safely, but it's the only way to give the portals enough power to stay stable. During the final evacuation, Commander Kate Williams understood the implications immediately. Moving the Liberty that close to a planet that was being torn apart by gravitational forces would be like flying into the center of a cosmic hurricane. The ship might not survive the attempt, and everyone on board would die along with the remaining Zephyrians. It's essentially a suicide mission, Kate said quietly. But if we don't try it, 1 billion innocent beings will die anyway, at least. This way, we have a chance to save them. Chief Engineer Maria Santos ran calculations on how long the Liberty's systems could withstand the gravitational stress of close atmospheric flight. Her results were not encouraging, but they offered a small window of opportunity if everything went perfectly. We might be able to maintain power for 30 minutes in those conditions, Maria reported. That would be just enough time to evacuate the remaining population if all the portals work perfectly and nothing goes wrong. Communications Officer Lisa Grant had been coordinating with Zephyrian evacuation teams across the planet. She understood better than anyone how many lives hung in the balance. Families were being separated as some escaped through portals while others remained trapped in areas where the evacuation network had failed. They're not asking us to sacrifice ourselves for them, Lisa said. Veltar told me that they're grateful for what we've already done. They understand that we've risked our own mission to help them. But I can't bear the thought of abandoning 1 billion people when we might be able to save them. Dr. Susan Blake worried about the psychological impact on the crew of attempting such a dangerous rescue mission. Everyone on the Liberty knew they might die in the attempt, but they also knew they couldn't live with themselves if they didn't try to save the remaining Zephyrians. The crew is scared, but they're also determined, Susan reported. People keep telling me that this is why humanity deserves to be among the stars. We're not the kind of species that abandons others when they need help. Weapons specialist Tony Davis had been monitoring the rogue planet's approach and the increasing gravitational effects on local space. His sensors showed that they had less than 6 hours before the Zephyrian world would be completely destroyed by tidal forces. If we're going to try this rescue mission, we need to start immediately, Tony warned. The planet is already breaking apart in some areas. Soon it'll be too dangerous for any ship to get close enough to help. Jake made the decision that would define the rest of human history. Despite the enormous risks, despite the possibility that everyone on the Liberty would die in the attempt, he ordered the ship to begin its descent into the chaos surrounding the dying Zephyrian world. "We didn't come this far to give up now," Jake announced to the crew. "We're going to save every Zephyrian we can, even if it costs us everything." The Liberty descended through increasingly violent gravitational fields as it approached the Zephyr planet. The ship's hull groaned under stresses it was never designed to handle while the crew worked desperately to maintain the portal network that was evacuating the last survivors. Engineer Pete Rodriguez rerouted power from life support systems to boost the portal generators. The ship grew cold and dark as all available energy went toward maintaining the evacuation routes. Everyone knew they were running out of time as the Liberty's systems began to fail under the extreme conditions. "Hull integrity at 40%, Maria announced as the ship shook violently. "We've got maybe 10 more minutes before the gravitational forces tear us apart." But the sacrifice was working. Portal after portal opened across the dying planet as Zephyrian evacuation ships carried the last survivors to safety. Veltar transmitted coordinates for emergency evacuation sites while human computers calculated the final portal destinations. As the Liberty's systems finally began to fail completely, the last evacuation ship left the Zephyrian homeworld. Over 3 billion intelligent beings had been saved through the combined efforts of two species, working together against impossible odds. The Liberty was trapped in the gravitational chaos as the planet below finally broke apart. But rescue ships arrived just in time to save the human crew. Using their advanced technology, the grateful aliens created protective fields around the Liberty and evacuated everyone to safety. Years later, as Ambassador Jake Morrison helped establish the Galactic Cooperation Council, he reflected on the choice that had changed everything. Humanity's willingness to risk everything for strangers had not only saved the Zephyrians, but had inspired dozens of other alien species to join. Together in peaceful cooperation, the rescue of the Zephyrians became the foundation story of interstellar civilization, proving that the greatest strength any species could possess was not advanced technology or powerful weapons, but the courage to choose compassion over self-interest when faced with the suffering of others.